Hello everyone, this is Future Wolf. So I ended up having to cut out a bunch of shit. I shouldn't have done that. I had just like stopped talking. And so I decided to cut that out, and so it's going to be a bit of a abrupt cut from the end of last episode to the beginning of this one. I also wanted to talk about kind of what happened in this episode. So this episode's mostly just gonna be me ranting. Normally, I probably would have just thrown out the rest of the footage from this episode because it's something that I personally don't like talking about because how it kind of affects me as an individual. Um, Essentially, it makes me very physically ill to talk about certain subjects, um, like politics and stuff like that. And so I generally try to avoid discussing that type of uh, those type of topics purely because it does make me physically ill. I don't generally like conflict, and so I usually try to avoid it if I can, both for my benefit and everyone else's. I would prefer just everyone got along, but as you'll understand with what I talk about, even I recognize that that's not always entirely possible. I will say that if you think low of me because of my opinions, that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. But you don't need to insult me either. I'm fairly certain no one will probably ever see this. And if they end up seeing this, that's fine. I don't care. Part of the reason why I decided to leave this in. So I'm going to go ahead and give it back to Past Wolf. If you're curious about what this is, I'm decided to make a path from home base to the ocean. I'm hoping that's it. Nope. As you can see, this is a long project. I don't know if I'm going to actually cover the creation of this, because I didn't record any of what I'm doing so far. But I did end up getting home. For those of you who do end up watching this and were curious, I do end up getting back to home base, and this is the project I decided to do between episodes. Depending on how things go, I may or may not record another episode until this project's done. But yeah, so I will let you guys get into the episode. For those of you who end up watching this, have fun, I guess. I'm gonna cut out this chunk. I don't know. What can I talk about? I feel like I do in interviews where like, tell us about yourself. I don't know. I'm alive. Uh, I guess that is something to talk about. Something I did notice in like the interview I had with the company I had applied for that I didn't get the job. I had a better time in that interview than I did in literally any interview I've ever done before. Um, they didn't ask me like these pointless. Uh, damn it. Sorry about that. I don't know if they were my neighbor or not, because we had a few people move in recently to the neighborhood near my house. So I'm not really acquainted with who lives where. I wasn't before, but someone was standing outside one of my neighbor's houses, I guess waiting for someone to let them in or some shit. My dog decided to sit there barking at them. By the way, what was I talking about? Oh, right. Interview shit. So like, they'd like ask me about like my experience with like customer service, and then they'd like ask me questions about like the different topics I brought up instead of the tell us a bit about yourself. Like, they gave me something I could work with. That just wasn't. Why are you a good fit for this company? I don't know. I've never worked for you before. I might be a terrible fit for the company. Like, and I don't know if it's just like those were questions that boomers and Gen Xers were like very capable of asking and like answering. Um, and I've always struggled with those types of questions. Like, they did ask one. I was kind of frustrated with it, to be honest. Um, like, what are your strengths? I don't really know. Like, I'm sure what I would consider a strength, someone else would consider a weakness. And here's the thing, I've never really thought about my strengths and weaknesses before. But, sorry. um, like, I've never really like thought about like what's my strengths in a job, what's my weaknesses as an employee or a leader. And just like I hate those questions because they always are, in my opinion, so open-ended, and no answer is the right answer type. Like those types of questions, like you can never get the answer to that question correct. And it felt like every job interview I've ever been in has been like that. Like, they intentionally set you up for failure purely because they don't want you. And that's how I've always felt in an interview, that they didn't actually want me, but to avoid discrimination lawsuits, they just take a certain number of people that applied, interview them, try to get like some diversity amongst race, religion, sex, I think it was attraction and creed or whatever. to avoid the discrimination law, the anti-discrimination law, which we'll talk about that in a second. That law does not prevent fucking shit. I'll be the first person to say that. Like that I don't know how it is in other countries, but in America, anti-discrimination laws don't protect you for shit. You can still get discriminated against at a job, but so long as they situate it, dark forest biome, in such a way that you can't have a leg to stand on for accusing them of discrimination against you, they can discriminate against you all they want. Like, I technically qualify in America to be considered disabled due to my depression. I am clinically and legally depressed. I technically should be capable of getting disabilities. The disabilities, like, registering for that shit is so fucking discriminatory, because if you are capable of functioning even marginally in some fashion, they don't consider you disabled, even though you technically fit the definition. Like, well, if you're disabled, why can you work a job? I can't, not really, but if I don't, I'll die. And then, then there's the fact you can't tell any employer you've ever considered working with or for that you have mental disabilities. Because they will start discriminating you. They will find some fashion. Actually, I should pick up those feathers. They'll find some way to make it that you no longer have a job, or they'll make your job so fucking insufferable that you'll want to quit, so they don't have to have you on their insurance because you're considered disabled. Like, my mother is diabetic. She's also considered disabled. And I think she also has seasonal depression. I don't think that would classify as part of the depression disability definition. It could, I don't know. What in the world? Oh, there it is. Would be nice if fuck, I went so far away. But yeah, my mom can't really tell locations. Hey, I have diabetes. I need accommodations. Ooh, village. Because they'll start discriminating against her. Because, having someone who's diabetic, having them on your payroll is extremely expensive. And so they will want to make sure you no longer on their payroll by making you not want to be on their payroll. And, you know, it is the absolute worst. Like, I have my gripes with how shit's run in America, and I also think we do things that are considered bad by extremists, but they're not really all that bad. But like, the problem is, in some instances, the stuff that is fine is being completely outweighed by what isn't fine, which really makes discussions about, like, oh, you're a fisherman, okay, really makes the discussions about, like, everything happening in America really hard to discuss, because, like, on one hand, stuff is not okay. On the other hand, there are things that are perfectly fine. And the problem is people wanting to trade one messed up system for another messed up system, instead of trying to make a new system utilizing the strengths of both to try and counteract the faults of both. And one of the biggest issues in America, and literally any country ever, isn't necessarily the laws. The laws don't exactly help. I will admit, they don't exactly help, but they're also not entirely the problem. And that in lies the actual issue. There's too much that is wrong, and there's too much that there is right, that swaying from one extreme to the next screws over everyone. And I know a lot of people don't like finding common ground and trying to compromise on things, at least nowadays. But I absolutely believe the greatest way to solve our problems is, instead of trying to divide everything in good and bad, trying to figure out, okay, what is working, what isn't, and working it together with everyone to find a solution that works for everyone, that isn't immediately discriminatory against everyone else. The problem is no one wants to do that, because everyone wants to either A, be the victim and not fix anything, or B, just sit there and complain about it. Or that statement was redundant. There are people who absolutely want to sit there and play the victim, and they don't want to fix anything. They just want to sit there and complain and bitch and moan about how terrible their life is. And then these people are used to describe people that are complaining because they're actually getting discriminated against the people who are complaining about discrimination. And the people who are complaining about now being discriminated want things to be fixed for both sides. The problem is neither side wants to sit down and figure out what the issue is and how to fix it. I was so fucking far away. And I think if we actually sat down and work together, things wouldn't be nearly as bad as they are today. The problem is we are so divided because, mostly due to pride, no one wants to admit that they're wrong. The problem is, it's not just one group that's wrong. It's all groups. We've all fucked up. And we need to sit down, admit we are wrong, we fucked up, and actually talk with each other about how to fix the issues. The problem is, I don't think that's going to happen, because everyone just wants to divide even further, mostly for clout. Like, I see a lot of people chasing clout that are very divisive, purely because they know that it'll get them attention online. And the problem is, we don't need more division. We got enough division as it is. We need less of it. The problem is, trying to be less divisive and more, understanding of all sides doesn't give people the clout and fame that they want to gain from being divisive, which really fucking sucks. Because I think the issues in America, the racism, the sexism, the classism, like all that shit would have been fucking gone if people didn't want to sit there, whine, moan, bitch, and complain about every little thing, and then sit there and be absolute asshats towards each other about, trying to stop one group from being completely discriminatory by becoming discriminatory themselves. And that's the biggest issue I've noticed. Like, the people who are going against sexism have become incredibly fucking sexist. The people who are trying to go against racism have become incredibly fucking racist. Like, it's not even funny, dude. I can't tell you how many black people I see, the instant that they disagree with something that was stated, that they should agree with it because they're black, but they disagree with it because it doesn't really align with either their perspective on life, or they've had a completely and vastly different experience. Which, that's fine. As much as everyone wants to go, yeah, we're a community. I've seen so many black people, so many, LGBT people, like the people that would fall under the scope of all of that. Not really agree with a lot of what's being said at them, and then all of these people who are like, oh, you can't say that's a slur, are now all of a sudden lobbying all of these slurs that they're telling people, oh, you can't say that because it's such a bad word. They're throwing it at these people because they disagreed with them, which is wrong. Like, you can't sit there and claim to be against something that's bad while being the problem. Like, it's like the KKK sitting down and, we have a real racism problem on our hands. Let's get rid of it. And their idea of getting rid of racism is just being more racist. It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, how do you get rid of racism by being racist? It doesn't make sense. But these people have convinced themselves that the only way to end racism is to be racist. And I see this in feminism all the fucking time. Feminists will be incredibly misogynistic towards women, while also being incredibly misandrist towards men. And they talk about wanting to get rid of, sexism, which, obviously most men I know would agree with. Get rid of sexism. It serves no purpose. But their idea of getting rid of sexism is just being sexist. And it's like, you can't be sexist and expect sexism to end. If you want to save the forest, you can't add more fire to the forest. Like, there's such a thing as controlled fire, but the problem is they're not doing controlled fire. They're doing burn everything to the ground, and that kind of mentality doesn't help the people you're trying to help. In fact, it makes it far worse off for them. Because now you're outing yourself as being this incredibly toxic individual who obviously does not practice what they preach. And I forget who said it, but it was like, don't forget that at the end of the day, no matter how monstrous they may have been, the Nazis were human. And that means you are capable of the same level of cruelty, the same level of violence and destruction as they are. And if you sit there and demonize and monstrify these people, you will eventually become the thing you are demonizing and monstrifying, which I'm fairly certain is not a word, but fuck it. Twitter gets to make up words and redefine shit all the time, so I'm making up this word. Where the fuck am I? I need to get the Z number down, but not vastly increase the X number. Fuck it. I'm probably over time because of my rant. Yeah, I'm very much over time. I'll probably cut most of this. I don't know. But yeah, you want to change the world, don't be the thing that you're trying to change. Be better. Because at the end of the day, if you're not, you only make things worse. The world that you want to create will forever be out of your reach. So, advice from someone who's seen far too much of the world at far too young of an age. Be better than what you want to be, or be better than the thing you're fighting. But remember that you can always end up becoming the thing you fight. need to always be mindful of that. Wow, this is a fucking heavy episode. Let's do a proper outro. My name has been Major Wolf. I will probably pick this back up back at home. Hopefully. I believe you guys can be better than you think you are. So, don't give up hope. Don't give up hope and don't become your monsters. Because the world no longer needs monsters. They need people. Not heroes, not villains, not monsters. They need normal people. People who are kind, compassionate, and willing to work together despite differences. And I know a lot of people don't want to get rid of this idea of differences, but at the end of the day, the only way to help people with differences is not to rely on our differences to divide us. Our differences are what make us unique, special, and with them, we can make the world a better place. We can teach people to be better than themselves while also becoming better ourselves. I'm fairly certain I said ourselves twice. The first one, it was supposed to be themselves. So, work towards bettering yourself so that you can better the world. Don't become your monsters, because we don't need those. And as always, have a very wonderful day.